The cold winds atop Mount Vesuvius whipped around a desperate band of runaway gladiators, trapped by a Roman army below. These men, once forced to entertain the masses with their lives, now stood on the precipice of a new destiny. The Romans, led by Glaber, saw only a minor nuisance, starving slaves with kitchen knives and farm tools. They underestimated the resolve and cunning of those they deemed inferior. But Spartacus, once a Thracian warrior, now a gladiator, saw opportunity where others saw doom. His eyes, filled with the fire of defiance, scanned the horizon for a path to freedom. He rallied his men, Gauls, Germans, Thracians, fighters with nothing left to lose. United by their shared suffering, they became a formidable force, ready to defy the might of Rome. Using wild vines from the mountain slopes, they crafted makeshift ladders. These simple tools would become their lifeline, a means to escape the clutches of their oppressors. As night fell, the rebels silently descended the sheer, unguarded cliff face, bypassing the Roman blockade. Their hearts pounded with the thrill of impending freedom. The Romans, complacent, had left this side unwatched, believing it impassable. Their arrogance would soon be their downfall. The rebels moved like shadows, their escape unnoticed. Each step was a silent declaration of their newfound resolve. At the base, they transformed from prey to hunters. The air was thick with anticipation as they prepared to strike. Spartacus led his men in a surprise attack, catching the Romans off guard. The clash was fierce, a testament to their desperation and courage. The siege was broken in a single, audacious stroke. The rebels' audacity had turned the tide, sending shockwaves through the Roman ranks. The world's most powerful empire had just been outwitted by slaves. This victory was more than a battle won. It was a symbol of hope. This was no longer a simple escape. It was the spark of a rebellion. The flames of defiance were lit, destined to spread far and wide. Word would soon spread, the chains of Rome could be broken. The message of freedom would echo across the land, inspiring others to rise. The hunted had become the hunters. With each step, they carried the weight of a new era on their shoulders. Spartacus and his men vanished into the night, leaving chaos in their wake. Their legend was just beginning, a tale of courage and rebellion. The legend of Spartacus was born on the slopes of Vesuvius. His name would become synonymous with the fight for freedom. Rome would never see its slaves the same way again. The seeds of change had been sown, and the empire would tremble. The first blow for freedom had been struck. The dawn of a new era was on the horizon, and the world would never be the same. Gladiators in Rome lived on the edge, slaves, prisoners, and outcasts forced to fight for the crowd's amusement. Spartacus, stripped of his past, was forged in this brutal world. Training was relentless. Every day was a battle for survival. Gladiators learned to fight with any weapon, their bodies honed for violence. They were rivals and brothers, bound by suffering and the ever-present threat of death. The arena was both stage and grave, where a man's fate hung on the crowd's whim. Spartacus stood apart, strong, intelligent, and unbroken in spirit. He saw the injustice, the wasted potential of men forced to kill for sport. The skills learned in the ludus, discipline, teamwork, combat, became tools for something greater. Spartacus began to dream of freedom, not just for himself but for all who suffered under Rome's yoke. The arena had made him a fighter, soon it would make him a leader. Capua's gladiator school was more than just a place of training. It was a prison, a grim fortress where men were stripped of their freedom and forced to fight for the amusement of others. Inside these cold stone walls, its inmates, men from all corners of the empire, plotted a dangerous escape, whispering in the shadows, their hope flickering like candlelight in the darkness. Spartacus and his fellow slaves, battered by endless beatings and driven by desperation, seized their chance when their secret plan was suddenly discovered by their captors. Unable to reach the heavily guarded armory, they stormed the kitchen instead, arming themselves with whatever they could find. Cleavers, spits, knives, and even broken table legs became their weapons. Their brutal training in the arena turned chaos into deadly force. In the cramped corridors, they fought their way out, every move a struggle for survival, every blow a bid for freedom. Out of the 200 who dared to rebel, only 78 managed to break through the gates and make it to freedom, leaving many comrades behind in the chaos. In the narrow streets outside, fate intervened. They stumbled upon a wagon loaded with swords and shields, a stroke of luck that transformed them from a desperate mob into a true fighting unit, armed and ready. Spartacus, along with his trusted lieutenants Crixus and Oenomaus, took command, guiding the ragged band of fugitives out of Capua and into the wild, untamed countryside of southern Italy. Their destination was Mount Vesuvius, a looming volcanic mountain that offered natural protection, a fortress carved by nature itself. There, on the rocky slopes, they found high ground and a moment to regroup, catching their breath and tending to their wounds, finally free from their chains. The escape was more than just a jailbreak. It was the first act of open rebellion, a bold declaration that they would no longer accept their fate as slaves. In Rome, officials and senators dismissed the threat, underestimating the resolve and courage of the escaped slaves, believing the rebellion would soon collapse. But the fugitives were no longer just runaways. Now, they were an armed force, training together, forging themselves into a disciplined unit, ready to challenge the might of the Republic. The road to Vesuvius marked the beginning of a journey that would soon erupt into a war, one that would shake the foundations of Rome itself and inspire countless others. Spartacus's leadership turned their desperation into hope, uniting men of different backgrounds with a single purpose: freedom. The rebellion had truly begun, and the world would soon know the name of Spartacus. The ambush at Vesuvius changed everything. In a single daring night, the world witnessed the impossible. A handful of gladiators outwitted Rome's finest. Spartacus's surprise attack shattered Glaber's army, sending shockwaves through Rome. The mighty legions, once thought invincible, were left humiliated and broken. News of the victory spread quickly. Slaves across Italy heard of a gladiator who had defeated Rome. Whispers of hope traveled from villa to village, igniting a spark in the hearts of the oppressed. Fugitives, shepherds, and farmhands flocked to Spartacus's banner, swelling his ranks. For many, it was the first time they dared to dream of freedom. The rebel camp became a training ground. Gladiators taught new recruits to fight and work as a unit. Every day, the camp echoed with the clash of wooden swords and the shouts of determination. Armed with captured Roman weapons, the army grew in strength and confidence. Each sword and shield taken from the enemy was a symbol of defiance and a tool for survival. Spartacus avoided direct battles, relying on speed, surprise, and knowledge of the land. He led his followers through forests and over mountains, always staying one step ahead of Roman patrols. He launched daring raids, gathered supplies, and vanished before Rome could respond. These attacks kept his army fed and the Romans off balance, fueling the legend of Spartacus. Each victory inspired more to join, eroding Rome's aura of invincibility. The rebel camp swelled with new faces, men and women who saw a chance to change their fate. The rebellion was no longer a nuisance, it was a movement. What began as a desperate escape had become a beacon of hope for thousands. Spartacus's tactics turned a band of slaves into a formidable force. Discipline, courage, and unity transformed the rebels into an army that could challenge Rome itself. Rome faced an enemy it had never imagined, an army of the oppressed, united by a common cause and a fearless leader. The slopes of Vesuvius echoed with the sounds of training and hope. Every sunrise brought new recruits, new strength, and renewed determination. The fight for freedom was underway. Against all odds, a revolution had begun, and the world would never be the same. Spartacus's army was a nation on the move. Gauls, Germans, Thracians, Greeks, all united by a dream of freedom. Their diversity was both strength and challenge, but hope bound them together. Spartacus aimed to lead his people north, across the Alps, to their homelands. The army became a rolling city, with women, children, and non-combatants. Feeding and sheltering thousands was a daily struggle. They plundered Roman estates, forged weapons, and built a new society in the shadow of the old. For the first time, these people had agency and purpose. Victories brought celebration and hope. Losses brought mourning and resolve. Spartacus's greatest weapon was the shared dream of freedom. The rebel camp was alive with optimism and determination. Rome's slaves had become a people with a cause. Rome could no longer ignore the rebellion. New armies were sent, but Spartacus outmaneuvered them, using the mountains to his advantage. He ambushed Roman columns, cut supply lines, and vanished into the wilds. In one famous ruse, he tricked Verinius by leaving a decoy camp, escaping under cover of darkness. Each victory boosted morale and Spartacus's reputation as a master tactician. But unity began to fracture. Crixus, seeking vengeance, split from Spartacus with thousands of followers. Alone, Crixus's force was crushed by the Romans. He was killed, his army destroyed. Spartacus mourned his comrade, forcing Roman prisoners to fight as gladiators in grim tribute. The cost of division was clear. The rebellion's strength lay in unity and cunning. Rome's might was formidable, but Spartacus's resolve endured. Spartacus transformed a mob of slaves into a disciplined army. He drew on gladiator skills, agility, technique, and adaptability, teaching his men to fight as a flexible, mobile force. Guerrilla tactics became their strength: ambushes, raids, and swift retreats. Leadership was key. Spartacus balanced rival factions and kept the army focused on freedom. Captured weapons and strict discipline turned chaos into order. He curbed excesses, striving for a movement, not just a mob. Spartacus was both general and diplomat, uniting a diverse force through victory and vision. From kitchen knives to swords, the slaves became a nation in arms. Rome's patience ran out. Crassus, ruthless and ambitious, took command with 8 legions. He imposed brutal discipline, reviving decimation to instill fear in his own ranks. Crassus cornered Spartacus in southern Italy, building a massive wall to trap the rebels. Starvation set in. Spartacus's attempts to negotiate were rejected. In a desperate winter storm, the rebels broke through the wall, but Roman armies closed in from all sides. Exhausted and divided, the rebels faced their final battle near the Salaris River. Spartacus fought to the end, reportedly trying to reach Crassus himself. He fell in battle, his body never found. The rebellion was crushed. Rome had reasserted its dominance, but at a terrible cost. Spartacus died as he lived, a warrior for freedom. The dream of liberation was drowned in blood, but the legend endured. Rome would never forget the name Spartacus. In the aftermath, Crassus crucified 6,000 survivors along the Appian Way, a brutal warning to all. Rome's power was restored, but Spartacus's story refused to die. He became a symbol of resistance, the slave who made Rome tremble. His rebellion was the greatest in Roman history, a scar on the empire's pride. Over centuries, Spartacus inspired revolutionaries, writers, and dreamers. He proved that even the oppressed could challenge an empire. His legacy is one of courage, unity, and the unbreakable human spirit. Spartacus reminds us that the fight for freedom never truly ends. History remembers not just the victors, but those who dared to resist. The spark he lit still burns, urging us to honor the struggle for justice and liberty.